Our Denise, do you want to bring in our guest?
I sure do. Can I introduce to our studio Nana Agyeman, part of Access UK. Nana. Hey.
Dean, what's happening? You okay?
Really good, really good, really good. And glad you're here. And the reason why he's here is because in one of the groups he manages, sorry, can you hear me? One of the groups that he manages, Nana, as always, for as long as I've known him, has had
loud and clear.
Yeah, good. Has always had stabbings, knife crime as one of the things high on his agenda. And what I like about him, why I like him, because he stuck with it, but he's always looking for solutions. So I thought it would be a really good idea, and I hope we've got a lot of people in the chat we can talk about solutions and see what things we can give to Nana so that Nana can take it away. So he'll explain what he's doing and why. You can? Good. Yep.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. I can hear you. So before we start with you, a voice in my head, have you got some images of the case? Because this will lead into quite nicely when we just have our full discussion with Nana. Have you got the young man, the Bajan guy, Thurell Thompson? You've got any images? Right, okay. So this is a picture. Do you know about Thurell Thompson, Nana? Yes, you do. You do?
Do I?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the young man that came from Barbados just a couple of weeks ago. It was in the chat. So he came from Barbados. He'd been in a motorbike accident in Barbados, and he came over for a break to spend time with his family in Reading. He'd only been in the country for 3 days, and he went into a pub in Reading, the Walkabout Sports Bar in Reading, and the young man was stabbed in his head with a knife.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in.
I missed this one. But go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he'd only been here for 4 days when this happened. He'd been out with his family on a night out. Yeah, and this is what happened to him. So this guy, he's a lighting technician, 29 years old, well respected in his country. Comes here on vacation, goes to this pub club, and whilst on the dance floor, this thing happened to him. His mother has had to fly over from Barbados to spend time with him. Now he's in an induced coma in the John Ratcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And basically the sad thing about it is that he had no insurance. So, we don't need to say no more. He had no insurance. So, that emergency care he's entitled to, which he got the emergency care. But anything else they do now, they want money. Yeah, they want money. So a GoFund was started. And I have to say, the response was quite good. So up to that point, I think there was £11,000 was what they were told that he needed. When we last checked, there was 8,000. But some community groups have been out there doing their thing. But guess what? They got to 11,000, then they got to 20,000. So this is only in the past few days. And then guess what's happened? They've told them it's 150,000 bill. 150,000. So I spoke to his mum this morning, and she said that Quincy's back. She said that she's got she's got lots of support, and she really appreciated the fact that people are trying to put money in, but it's gone through the roof. £150,000 is now required to support this young man. He's got no cover on his skull at the moment. Yeah. And that's a big operation that's going to be required. And then eventually he will have to be sent home. So there is no money at all. So we've currently got 20,000. Big up to the groups that have been supporting. There have been community groups. There's been all sorts of bits and bobs have been going on. I'm trying to get us to do some media things for them so that it gets out there more. Yeah. So when you look for him, Thurell Thompson, you will find bits and bobs in the news, but it's not like a big story, and it's a knife crime. So this is why it was appropriate for you to come on so we can have these conversations. And also, and Quincy later will be talking about, so we've got the knife crime situation, but what is the real effect on the families after that? Because when I spoke to her, she's struggling The woman is struggling because she cannot take that this has happened to her child. What is the impact? What aftercare is there for people? So that's that. So now, we're back. I want to talk to you about knife crime. Yeah. So would you want to tell people, if you could start by telling people who you are and what you do, that would be great.
Okay, so my name is Nana, and I'm the co-founder and director of an organization called Access UK, which stands for African Caribbean Careers and Employment Support Services in the UK. We were set up in 2012 after the London riots, just basically to give young Black people better career services that's more aligned with their challenges, providing solutions that are bespoke for them. So we help basically young Black people into education, employment, and enterprise, which is business startup. So that's what we are. We're a careers provider that's structured to support young Black people in society and in the labor market as a whole. So that's us.
Okay, Quincy.
Hello, Nana. How you doing, sir?
How you doing, my friend? You good?
I'm good. It's a phone call long overdue because I do want to have this discussion today regarding my friend, and I'm open to have the conversation because this does involve the impact of how we see knife crime and how it's dealt with, and the right energy going to the correct people, or if there's such a word as the correct organizations, so to speak. So listening to the story which Denise brought highlight to me, and it just shows us that I remember seeing that particular story, but when you get a paper on the metro, you're just flicking through and flicking. So this story missed me. So it's only because of the paging groups, and then Denise bringing it up, I saw it even more. And it's just hearing the fact of Denise now telling us that it's £150,000. So part of me, and it might be cynical thinking, part of me thinking the people who do these operations who involved around this, they might think they've got this money quick, so they can afford more. And it really highlights how a price is put on human life. And it really highlights where we're at as a community financially, is the fact of it ain't like we ain't got people of color with money, but it's how they distribute that money and how it's looked upon in organizations. And we're going to do everything within our power to try and raise that money for this young man. But the saddest thing about it, he's not the only one. There are plenty of families who need financial support. There are plenty of families who need that aftercare, not just for the victim, but the supporting family. So, like even the young lady in Croydon whose life was taken, like what support is that mother might have had to give up work to be there for loved ones or other people. So what support has she got to pay her bills to? That woman should never ever need to work again. You understand what I'm saying? She should be looked after. So that's what I've picked up from this one particular case. I want to give you a story which I was sent to me by a comic who filmed this. I'll give that in a moment. Yeah, but the Access, your organization, is it privately funded? Do you get funding? How do you go about getting your money to help these people?
That's a good question. When we started it in 2012, I funded it out of my own pocket. So at the time I was doing a lot of I was involved in property investment, a lot of that stuff. Mark was killed, and obviously connecting up with my people in Tottenham was I saw from the inside that the services that were out there in the mainstream were not structured to deal with the issues that I was hearing about. So I thought, you know what? I basically sold one of my properties. I tried to remortgage, it didn't work at the time because that was the time of the credit crunch. So I tried to do a remortgage, it didn't work. end up selling it, and it basically invested some of the proceeds into setting up Access. So, like you alluded to in what you said earlier, I'm a person that's concerned about our community. So I took the risk and invested it into Access. So Access, we're set up basically as a social enterprise and a charity, or a business and a charity mixed up together. So we draw down on some of our money from services we deliver and get paid for, and other stuff is from grants and donations. But we lean more towards the business side, which doesn't mean that we charge our beneficiaries to access our service. It's all free. Anybody that comes to our service is free, but somebody else is paying for that engagement. So for example, it could be the council paying us to engage local people or local youth. So that's how we're structured. That's our basic structure.
How does it make you feel then when you see campaigns to ban zombie knives? The recent Idris Elba campaign, and it's highlighted and then it seems to be put down. And on the mainstream, it seems to be, right, this is the news now, then we're just going to leave it. Because that was big news last month, in January. So when you see things like that, how does that make you feel as an organization?
Well, you know what? It's a bit of a loaded one. There's different kind of elements to that question. First of all, the reason why it's been in the news of late is because since the start of the year, most of the victims that were highlighted in the media were all white victims. Okay, and I don't know if you've been observing how the media's been treating these white victims a lot different from how they treat black victims. So you have, for example, in Nottingham, you had the 3 individuals that were killed. There was an older man, there was a young lady who was a student, and a younger white guy that were killed by a black person with mental health issues. There was a young man that was killed in Primrose Hill on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Primrose Hill. Primrose Hill is quite an affluent area in Camden, right, in London Borough of Camden. So he was killed by 2 white individuals in the park. And then there was another, obviously we know about Brianna, is it Brianna Gay? Mm-hmm. The transgender young lady that was killed as well by two white young people. But like I said, those cases, we see how the media's treated it in terms of, the parents going to the number 10, parents going to see Keir Starmer. They're looking to bring in new laws off the back of that. It reminds me of the Ben Kinsella case many years ago. So what you see is the clear recognition that, or inference that white lives matter, black lives don't. Okay, it's obvious. It's obvious as day. So that's the reason why Idris's campaign was given a lot of attention, because we're now seeing things that I've been saying for years. Because let's face it, knife crime is framed as a black problem, as an exclusively black problem, right? And that's the reason why nothing's been done about it, because those that are in the Joe public has been being pumped with misinformation and distortions of the facts, so that perception is there in the wider community. There's people even in our community that think that knife crime is an exclusively black problem. So that's the undercurrent of the reason why nothing gets done, because who cares about black people? That's essentially what it is. And the evidence for what I'm saying is clear in terms of how these high-profile cases have been dealt with by the media and by the government. It's evident. It's not even something to even discuss. But I've been saying this for years. I've been saying, listen, this is not a black and white issue. This is impacting on all communities. Let's come together and clamp down on a common problem. This is what I've been saying on the BBC, ITV for years. But obviously, I'm an anomaly in the space, because you even get black people going on TV, chatting up a load of nonsense, and making the situation worse instead of better. So in terms of what Idris is doing, I think it's great. I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's not by all means a solution. Banning zombie lives is not going to address the mindset that drives that behavior in the first place. Do you understand? It's the behavior, it's the mindset that we need to address, because you can ban things. Alcohol was banned in prohibition. It didn't stop people from drinking alcohol.
Drinking and gambling, yeah. So I'm in agreement. You know what I mean? I've had conversations. I've joined groups. I've come out of groups because ultimately the you can ban. Last time we checked, guns were banned, but people think, you know what I mean? So we've gone from guns and tried to ban knives. You know what I mean? But they're going to try and ban words on placards. But you know what I mean? But ultimately, it's the after effect of those, because that particular policy change is not happening now, and because that's potentially going to happen in September, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, last time we checked, people don't hold off until September. You know what I mean? If anything, it will go up, because they say, look, let me get all my bookings in now, because come September, I'm putting on pause. It doesn't work like that.
Oh Lord, yeah.
I want to bring in another lady that I've worked with. She's got her own organisation. She's a mother and she's got young children. So she has dealt with young people who have been victims. And I had a conversation with her, who literally, and as she can tell you, it just opened my eyes. Us as adults, because we're all in there as grown people. I don't think I underestimate, and even have a conversation with my own sons. We don't know the world they live in.
Not at all.
We just know, like, you're my child, daughter or son. I should know what you do. We don't understand what it's like to go from our house to the end of the street or to another area. What anxieties they have to put in. I've got to avoid this, that, go down this road.
100%.
We haven't grown up in that. So can we bring her in, Tarina, in the building? Tarina in the building, just bring her in so we can have this conversation.
Hi, Tarina.
Good morning. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Quincy. Good morning, Nana.
What's up? Are you okay?
I haven't been okay. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, about 4 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, my 14-year-old was stabbed.
What?
It's that phone call that no mother ever wants to receive, and I've got to give all the glory to the Most High that my son is alive and well, and he still has a future ahead of him. However, listening to the conversation, Nana, I totally agree with what you're saying. Quincy, you know how I feel about it. Not only am I a mum, but I've been working in the caring sector, because as Black people, that's what we do. We've got big hearts, and it's unfortunate that the rest of society don't really see how caring we are. They like to tarnish us and tarnish everybody with the same brush, and that is not us. Ultimately, I think that's part of our downfall, that we are so loving and giving and kind that we accept a lot of this nonsense. As you know, I've grown up in this country. I've been born here. There was a major pandemic of knife crime in Scotland 20 years ago. They sorted that out. They sorted that out because it was a public health issue. They had to get on board NHS, social services, the police, all sectors were involved, and they got rid of that problem. So if we're in London, we're part of the same country. They have the framework to do it. So why isn't it being done? Why isn't it being
Absolutely.
done?
Can I just add, everything you said was spot on. Can I just add something to it? Up until 2019, because it wasn't that long ago, up until 2019, Scotland was a knife crime capital of Europe.
Yes.
not 20 years ago, up until 2019, statistically, they were knife crime capital of Europe. So, you know, like I said, there's not a lot of people in Scotland that look like me and you in Scotland. So we need to get it out there. And the thing is, this data is there. Like you said, they're aware that it worked up there. The only difference, I think, with London, adopting in London, is that we have to bring that cultural competency within it. Because obviously in Scotland, you're dealing with a certain demographic of people that live in Scotland. I think what we can, see, they call it a public health approach, but what really is like a multidisciplinary approach to dealing with it. So you're working with, you know, the NHS, you're working with the police, you're working with this, you're working with that. We're all working in unison. That's really what a public health approach is. In layman's terms, is working with different partners at the same time to address the issue. So that everybody knows what everybody's doing, and we're working in collaboration rather than working in isolation. That's the core definition of a public health approach. Like I said, the additional layer is that we're living in a very diverse capital. So that brings other nuances to the same solution. That's the only thing I'll add to that public health approach stuff.
And to add on to that, and I think that we have to appreciate here in London, there's so much diverse communities here. Everybody's going to have a different attitude to knife crime. So in Scotland, it's still technically the same kind of cultures and backgrounds. So an elder is going to relate to the young person either through religion or football. But when you've got in London a mix of Somalian, a mix of West Indian, a mix of West African, you know what I mean, a mix of Eastern European, all under one roof, who ultimately live in areas with the only common denominator we have amongst us is finances. We are all is poverty. So that is the ultimate drive to why these things could happen, the potential root cause of what could happen. Again, I will pick up on what Nana says and UT to the point of, I do believe this is a black problem. This is only being spoken about because white kids have been affected of it. It's the same thing with the drugs. Like I said, you couldn't tell black people about fentanyl 20 years ago, you know what I mean? But now, because Dave Chappelle has highlighted it, and beginning of the year, unfortunately, no one wants no young person to be a victim of a knife crime. But because it is happening to white kids, this is why it's being highlighted. This is why.
Okay. Right. So I have to be very careful with this, how I see it. I don't see this as just as a black problem. Yeah. I looked at Scotland, and it looked like they went to the root cause. They had everybody around the table, where what seems to happen here, we have separations, we have silos of conversations. But what they did, they had everybody around the table. So the government recognized, or somebody who came to a decision, that is going to be the only way that we're going to be able to resolve this with a 5-year plan. Yeah. And that's what they did. Now, I appreciate there aren't many people that look like us, maybe in Scotland, but I think the ethos, the basis of what they did, is what needs to happen here in this country. And I can't say, I'm not going to say it's a black problem, because what happens is this: you need to go to Liverpool, your great city. You need to go to Liverpool. You need to go to Manchester. You need to go to Leeds. Let me tell you something. This is happening to white. There are white young men, and not so much women, that are being stabbed. And yes, you'll see it in the news, but just like you'll say, it was in the metro, and it wasn't like a big thing. But let me tell you, it is happening a lot more. And when I was doing stop and search, and I linked this because at that time, and of course they were finding knives and that, I remember those official statistics, the government statistics. And the fact is that the white people, were getting stopped and searched, and guns and knives were found. Knives were found, but they did not necessarily appear in the stats. So we have a government, we have a media that is presenting us. And unfortunately, people are believing it. They are accepting it. Yeah, it's just what black people do. So I personally have to be very careful. I'm not going to go down that road because that then takes away what those white young boys are doing too. That's me.
Yeah, wait, Denise. We're saying exactly the same thing. What you just said there is doesn't differ from what I just said. Maybe I said it in a different way. It's exactly that. We need to dispel these myths. Remember, I said it's not an exclusively black problem. Do you understand? The media framed it. I've said this on record so many times. Some people on the BBC have been quiet when I've said it because you're looking at the elephant in the room. I'm saying what people think, but they're scared to say it, right? Which is they framed it as a black problem, hence why no one cares. Even some black people don't care until it happens to their child or their family member. Then they start paying more attention. So we're saying exactly the same thing. You know, Glasgow. The reason why I mentioned Glasgow, Glasgow or Scotland as the number one knife crime capital of Europe is because it's to emphasize that point that this is impacting all communities. You know, wherever you are, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
you know, there's an underbelly that's going on everywhere. Yeah. So we need to get away from the kind of divisive language that they have in the media, the divisive stuff they put out there, and come together and address a common problem.
Yeah,
and I've been saying this for years. Yeah,
I think it also needs to be corrected because knife culture has been a part of youth culture from as long as we've known it. So we've had in the UK, you've had, you know, the craze, you've had the skinheads, you've had the mods, you've had all it's youth culture across the board. So we need to correct that narrative and let people know actually historically this has always been, and it's not just in the UK, it is actually it can be worldwide. It depends where you find the built up populations where they are affected by poverty and other socio-economic issues. So we need to have honest conversations where we're actually saying to people, no, come on, look at the data and look at historic facts. You know, it's not just, and also we have to be honest and look at the culture of the music. Music breaks, you know, boundaries, and I like to say, really, I've grown up in London. It's a London thing. It's not just a black culture. Young people gravitate to the same kinds of music, and if we're looking at what the music is, you know, glamorizing, it's that. Look at that young man that got shot 8 times the other day. The way that the media reported that, you'd think that he got shot once. They downplayed that. So we need to hold the media accountable because what they're doing is they're skewing things and it's wrong.
But just to say though, that public health approach, the reason why I think it's difficult, Quincy, Nana, Tiana, I just think it's difficult because we have got a big issue with our police force. I can't see them sitting around the table. Mark Rowley has got problems coming out of his ear hole right now with his own officers. And this is, you know, they're under special measures. They're under special. We mustn't forget that the police are under special measures. Basically, they're not ready to sit around a table. So when Nana's looking for solutions, and I'm hoping that people do come in the chat and share some thoughts. I just think it is slightly harder for us because we're dealing with a police force that are just a bunch of wrong-uns.
And I think to draw on that, when I say it's a black problem, I'm saying, we're all in agreement. It's what the media has painted it out to be as a black issue. So when you listen to radio presenters on mainstream stations, and even in conversations I've been in on stage and stuff like that, they say this is a black issue. And it isn't just a black issue, but it's looked upon as a black issue. It is, when you mention Liverpool, again, the common denominator of the areas that's happening in Liverpool are poor areas. And as we know, Liverpudlians don't even see themselves as English. If you follow like the football team, they don't even see themselves as part of England because of how they've been treated. So for the next 20, 25 minutes, I do want to speak, and if we can, see, look, I mean, thank you for sharing with us that. And I mean, what support have you got after the news when you got that phone call? like what support have you got from not just family but from the organizations to try to help you with your child?
Unfortunately, not a lot. In fact, it's pretty much zero. I honestly need to big up St. Giles, and that's it really. St. Giles, they are like they're an organisation that come into the hospital and they will support anybody who's gone through a violent crime, any kind of trauma like that. So, for example, because my son he's adolescent, he's 14, they will come and have a conversation with him, put mentoring in place, support with his education, make sure that he's got somebody to talk to and some activities to do. Basically, that's it. The police, unfortunately, I've been the person that supported the police more than they're supporting me at the moment, because I'm a person who's done youth work, detached work. Because my son was already in crisis, I was already hitting the road and befriending young people in the area. So a lot of the intel that I was able to pass to the police has come from the children. So because of that, and it's a safeguarding issue, I'm just like, I've pretty much gathered everything and given it to them. Otherwise, because I'm frightened for my child, the person who done that, the child who done that to my child, I can't have you on the road. I love you and I'm sorry that you're in the state that you're in, and I forgive you, but I can't have you out on the road terrorizing children, because he's done it before. And because a young person that he attacked before was scared to testify, they dropped the case. So he was out and able to do it a second time. So what's going to happen? Are we going to leave him so that he can murder somebody before he gets put away? No, there should be things that should be able to be put in place, even though he's in on remand. What work is being done with him there? What psychological evaluations? Who's looking at his family? Who's saying, okay, you've gone down this path because of this, this and that, and starting to put things in place from there? It's not happening. Social services were telling me, you can't let your son out because you can't protect him. So what are you going to do? I've been protecting him. However, he was just standing at the bus stop, minding his own business. So what I'm currently hearing from our children on the street is this person, this young boy, was around for several weeks terrorizing children. The children didn't tell anybody. They told each other. They didn't tell their parents. They didn't tell a youth worker. They didn't tell a teacher. They didn't tell the police. So our children are left vulnerable going to and from school. And as far as I can, what they said to me is, Miss, nobody cares. You're the only parent that we've seen step on the road for their child. We don't see anybody. So because they'd seen me around, they happily gave me everything. And I handed it over to the police. And the police are still telling me, well, you know, if your son doesn't testify, then we might have to drop the case. How does that make sense?
Nana, where does that come from? This, because I struggle with this with my own children growing up. This, I don't care. We do care. Where does that might come from your perspective?
Because there's a generational disconnect. Some parents are working 2 or 3 jobs to survive, and they haven't got that time, that quality time dedicated towards, dedicating towards bringing up their children. They haven't got it. They simply cannot afford, literally cannot afford to not to have 2 or 3 jobs. So that quality time that you normally have to engage your young people, speak to them, it's disappearing fast. Also, going back to what Miss T was saying about her son's situation, is that your son's 14, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. Yes. So it highlights the fact that the work for these young people needs to be started at primary school. Not when they get to secondary school, whereby the kind of core mindset is starting to kind of formulate or forge. You need to get them early. And a lot of people don't get this. Early intervention is key. Because the attitude of quote unquote no snitching, where does that come from? Where did they learn that from? Because I always tell my young people, listen, forget about that no snitching. That's no snitching nonsense. If you are a civilian, and they use these terminologies, but if you are a straight goer, as it were, right? Your parents are working, you're not involved in no activities, you've got every right to say whatever you need to say and talk to the authorities. But when you get immersed into that criminal mindset of, no snitching, that's a separate issue. But where it is, they're being bombarded with so much misinformation and conflation, they don't know what's what. So in that instance where they're seeing this young man going around stabbing people or bullying people, they feel that if they tell somebody, then they'll be labeled as a quote unquote a snitch or a grass. And nobody wants to be labeled as that. But they need to understand the differentiation. These are rules that are for criminals. These are rules for people that are actively involved in gangs. They're not for you, the straight goer that's just living their life. It's not for you. But they find it hard to separate the two things. So, I mean, yeah, it's difficult. But like I said, early intervention for me is key. Early intervention for me is key. There's a quotation that I love. I want to quote it word for word, by Frederick Douglass, and it says, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, which lends to the whole thing of early intervention.
Yeah.
Because everything starts off with how you think. Any action you take, it starts off with what's up here, which will determine the act. So once we can go into these primary schools and kind of engage our young people early, we've got a much better chance of better outcomes, at the other end. We're putting together loads of things this year from like the road shows in the schools about stop and search and knife crime. We're set up like a online portal that can be accessed anywhere in the UK. We're doing all this stuff, but at the core of it is that recognition that early intervention is key. And the intervention also in London has to be culturally competent. It has to be done by people from the community that understand the challenges we face and know how to engage our young people, are passionate about engaging our young people. Yeah, they've got a vested interest in that young person they're speaking to, rather than people being in these systems thinking, it's just a job. I clock in at 9 and I clock out at 3:30. And that's me done. It's a little bit more than that. We need people that are passionate about our youth to have that, engagement with them. Like doing this work is not just a job. It's a lot more than that.
No. That's where part of the issue lies, because as Quincy will tell you, both of us we've been involved in the education system of our children, and unfortunately, it's lacking. There are a lot of teachers, that are with your children longer than you're with them, and they don't like 100%. Them.
No,
they don't like them. They don't like teaching. So why are you in that profession? And that in itself is a stumbling block for them, because children are sensitive. They know when you don't like them. They know this. So from they know that this teacher doesn't like me, and obviously, I've heard big people discussing children in staff rooms, and I'm thinking, and not just newly qualified teachers. I'm talking about mature people that have been in the profession for many a years that you think are changing. It's not. It's all ego. It's all about them and their career and what they're achieving. They don't care about our children. So when we were talking about the police before, there's certain jobs we need to start screening people. They need to start having, lie detector tests. We need to know, do you have mental health? Are you a psychopath? Why? Because they're hiding and they're in these organizations and they are causing problems from early on. So like what you're saying They're coming with preconceived ideas of black people, and especially young black males. We know this. We know that profession is populated by a certain demographic, white, people not necessarily even from the city, and they tend to be more females in that profession than anything else. So they're coming in
into so-called urban areas, preconceived ideas of young black people, and that impacts on how they engage young black people and how they teach them. You know, and this has been going on for decades. This is not a new phenomenon. This has been going on for decades.
So can I just say, so like, I'm hearing you, and we've had these conversations before, and it's something that's close to my heart. But we know we can hear all the problems, and I really appreciate, Ms. T, what you've explained to us in terms of the work that you've been trying to do behind the scenes. You're clearly on it. But my question is still this: we know what the problems are, yeah. What, for example, you've talked about, let's say, education. Ms. T, you spoke about teachers, yeah. What are the solutions? What kind of solutions are we looking for that could change it? Because to me, I look at this as a whole government issue, yeah. Like, this isn't just little areas: education, health, housing. It's a big problem, and we're living in a country that's got massive issues as it is already. What can we do, yeah, to help reduce the knife crime level so mums like Miss T, yeah, do not have to go through such things? Now, we've talked about, definitely about early intervention. That's obviously, but where we are now, what can we do? Tell me what.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Quincy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're going to that. I don't think it's what we can do. Like, we know the issues, and I think we tend to look at the government. A government is not going to. The government is there to enhance themselves and their peer group. And I think it's to answer that question, D. Stop looking at the government to solve an issue in your house. Yeah, and this is why I would say that it has been organized for the longest while for families to break down. And that comes with organizations. So there were a time where our parents worked, but they came home at a decent time, and there was alternate time. So if my dad worked nights, my dad, before he goes, he would pick us up and prepare meals before my mum comes back. So there was like a conveyor belt. So now, as T knows, we've been in schools where it is the norm to have single parents. So we need to get off this. Stop trying to solve knife crime and try to sort out the family network. Why has the family network?
Absolutely.
So that comes with it. The knife and the crime comes with the breakdown of a family network.
Yes, and I agree.
100%. That's the reason why I've done a video recently. I already released about 2 or 3 days ago, where I speak to just that, what you just talked about, Quincy. I look at what can we do outside of the government, local government, or anything external people to do with our own issues. And I'll go through that one by one. And that's one of the points I made about the overrepresentation of single parents and absence of fathers within our communities. So definitely it's about what can we do that's within our power, rather than always looking externally to, signing petitions and marching and asking for somebody else to come in and solve our own problems.
Yeah.
But it does require a combination of both. It's not one-sided. Going back to something that Ms. T said was very interesting. The children said that they gave her information because she was the only one that showed concern. This is why things like Street Fathers, which is run by Colin from Gangs Unite and stuff like this, is so important, because the concept of Street Fathers doesn't necessarily require external funding. What it requires is people that are passionate about our young people, that want to dedicate their time, the little time they have, collectively to patrol the streets and be a point of contact for that young person on the street to approach him and say, look, big man, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. They would then be able to relay that information to organizations like ourselves, where we can provide that young person some help and assistance. Because assistance is there, but unfortunately, most people don't know where these organs are, where they are, what they do. They don't, for whatever reason. So they're like a conduit to say, okay, Nana Access UK, this is what he does, blah, 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 blah. We can refer that to that person. Black Thrive, they do mental health issues. Show Phoenix does it deals with school exclusions, whoever it may be in a community, which these young people haven't got a clue these organizations exist. So it's about plugging them into services that can help them. So when we talk about solutions, there's loads and loads of solutions. I started off with early intervention because I think that's the basis of everything else. But I could be here literally listing one by one what the solutions are. The reason why a lot of people tend to come with things like stop and search and ban knives and all that, because they don't really understand the complexities of the issue. This stuff we're talking about here, I live and breathe it every single day. Yeah, my life is all about how to empower Black people. Do you understand? So I'm invested in finding out these solutions. Whereas a normal, person that's just living their life, they don't know anything. They think, oh, let's stop and search, or let's throw them in jail. Let's put them in jail for 100 years. Let's throw away the key, and then that would miraculously solve the problem. When you got people like Cressida Dick, the former Met Commissioner, saying that you cannot police your way out of this problem. That's coming from the police themselves. They're saying you cannot police your way out of knife crime. So that's a recognition that this is a lot deeper than that. We need to look at the root causes more properly, instead of these headline grabbers like, banning zombie knives and putting people in jail for like 100 years, wherever it is that they want to, we have to look at the root.
Yeah. I'm going to read that. Got a message. There's a couple of messages from Pauline and Sky. Regardless of what, it starts with parents. We can't look at super pressers for help until we get active, like all of you are on the panel, and doing nothing will change. And this is from Pauline. In terms of the education, we need our own places. Own places of learning,
absolutely,
etc. And the skills are there in the community. I just think that what we see it. There are loads of organisations which are doing things, and what Nana says, I think that young people feel that they don't know about it, that it isn't highlighted enough. So then to go to, and no one's saying that a young person has to get on with their parents or has to get on with their siblings, but there should be an option to say, look, right now I'm not really feeling my mum or dad, but I can go to Auntie T's and get something, or I can go to another area. And one of the things I really, really want to highlight as well. So all of us here have got children, cousins, and nephews, and we all know each other from different circumstances. But none of our children know each other. And there's that thing of like growing up, depending on your environment. It's like Our Denise was DJing on Friday, and everybody on there guarantees a parent, and they all knew each other from DJing or the raving scene, and they've all got children, but none of them children know each other. So if my child, Nana, you're from Tottenham, right? You said you're Tottenham. No.
One second, I'm just unmuting myself. No, I'm not from Tottenham. No, I'm not from Tottenham. I'm from Northwest London, Kilburn. Oh, okay. That's where I'm originally from. But the reason why a lot of people think I'm from Tottenham because we started Access in Tottenham, in North London. So a lot of people think I'm from Tottenham. Yeah.
There's a thing of like my children, because of we know each other a couple of years, but there's no reason why my children should, if they, like I've got my grandchildren from Northwest London. So if my son goes over to Northwest London and he meets some other boys, he's like, oh, your dad is so-and-so. That's a connection. Do you remember? And it sounds cliche, but there was a time that we went out of our area and we knew
we still have a community.
There was a community that said, oh, I know you through
100%.
I can remember being on the bus as a youth, right?
100%.
On the bus, right? But before I got home, the phone had already rung how many times to tell my mum, I saw your child on the bus or on the road doing what she wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got in, I'm like, how did you know that? So we need to get back onto that. So 100% agree with you. Our children need to know each other.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Quincy? I don't know if you watched that video or not, but that, again, that's one of the things I highlighted.
Oh, that's why I mentioned it.
Exactly what you just said. Almost word for word. Yeah. Oh! Well, you know what? It's important. It's important because those were the days. I mean, I remember the time when we were coming up where we pride ourselves in knowing people from other areas. Do you know what I mean? Like that's part of our kind of come up where, okay, I know this guy from the, and you make that connection. Now you have a situation, for example, in Tottenham where somebody can't even walk sometimes across the road without getting into conflict. So imagine living on that kind of pressure cooker where you know that 5 minutes down the road, you could potentially get killed if you bump into somebody that don't like you. That never existed before. At Tottenham, for instance, you had Wood Green, you had the Tottenham boys, Edmonton boys, all together at one point in time. That was the collective. Now they're all in conflict, and it's like a stone's throw from each other. So imagine you're a young person living under that kind of pressure. We never had to experience that. I remember being stranded in Bow, on a bus. The police had come on a bus. They kicked us up. There was about maybe 8 of us. I don't know what we was doing in East London. Maybe go to a rave or do something. And they kicked us off, and we had to literally walk back from that part of London all the way back to Northwest. I can't remember even how we got back at early hours in the morning. But what I'm saying is that those things now are a myth for these young people. They don't know. Going to West End is like an excursion for them, because they're living under that constant fear. And if we can, again, going back to the early intervention, if we can kind of break this cycle, at early stage and build that solidarity, connect these young people up with organizations like I mentioned in my video, Manhood Academy, WYLA, NABAS, which is the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, and these Saturday schools that are all about the culture, organizations like Origin, that focuses on the rites of passage, about that solidarity in the culture. You can then kind of start to break the cycle, because the cycle has to be broken. Unfortunately, there's going to be a number of people that they're too far gone to save, and that's it. So the earlier we start looking at doing these things, the better it will be.
So sorry, go on.
No, I've got 5 minutes left before we go on, Dee.
So what happens is when with this show, I want to say that whoever's listening, Nana T, that we try to bring people onto the platform that can assist us in some of the processes and things that we're talking about. So let's say, for example, last week we had a young lady who was a science teacher. Science teacher. What she's saying is there's not enough Black people and young people taking science as a serious subject. And she wants to offer support around that, so that we can get our young people really educated along those sort of levels. The other problem I find we have is that we operate in silos. So what happens is this: there are great people who can have these conversations. We need a national think tank, because this isn't just happening in London. It's happening in Birmingham. It's happening in Nottingham. It's happening in Manchester. It's happening in Leeds. And what happens is there's somebody right now in Huddersfield who's got some great ideas, but doesn't know how to communicate or to share that information. So for me, we need a national think tank where those like-minded, strong-minded people can come together and help to think this through, because we're operating separately. We're operating silos. And it's not just London. It's not just London. It's happening in other places. And if we don't do that, I can't see how we can join the dots.
I'll say this. Go on, T.
Just as you said that, there's an amazing organization called Umbele. They do training for us across the board. They take us away to different countries. They've already got something like that already, Denise. So please look into, if I can find the link, I'll send it to you. But please have a look. It's UMBELE. An amazing. I'm sure they're doing the think tank already. But just before we go quickly, Quint, I think that we're talking about children and their education, but we're at the point in time where we have to educate ourselves as parents and get skilled up. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to tackle a lot of these issues that come up. And there's so much expertise amongst us already. Like, I'm a parent, I'm willing to give my time. We've already got an organization, but I'm a drugs worker, I'm a youth community worker. I've got skills and I'm happy to give them to our community. So we need to find other people that are willing to do that also.
And I would say this before we go to a break off the FM, right, and we bring in our next guest just after 1:30. And I put it out there. So Father's Day, I'm organizing. I'm going to organize a comics and children. So every male comic who's a father, we will bring them. Bring them to the show, and we're going to be doing comedy, and we're going to be talking. So even as comics, we can say, right, this is so and so's son, or this is so and so's daughter. You know what I mean? So I think more of those events where Keith used to do it back in the day when the parents used to take the young children to the disco. Keith used to do it back in the day when Chimes or Dougie's was open. So from a comedic point of view, I'm going to be organising that for Father's Day throughout the day. So because there's no reason why we're all connected, and I think that as Nana mentioned earlier on, it does start from the home, and us as men, I would say that we need to step it up, and we need to set example. Look, ladies and gentlemen, please come across to the Quincy Presents channel if you've got the link. We're going to continue the conversation. We've got some new guests coming up very, very soon in the show. T, I thank you for taking your time out. I know it's busy and stressful. Yeah, I'll be in touch. How's your boy getting on now?
Yeah, he's good. Stitches are out, but there's other bits and pieces I'd like to talk to you guys, because I really feel that we need to talk about organs, our children's organs, because these children that are being murdered, because parents are so distraught, they're not checking the children's bodies, and that is a major issue why this is also happening. So not nice to think about, but please, if you have a tragedy and your child is unfortunately unalive, please check autopsies and that everything's there. Seriously.
Yeah, you know what? It's amazing that we're having these conversations. Like we would never thought about. If it wasn't for the film Get Out, I wouldn't have thought about organs. But it's the reality.
It's the reality. Because
we're not even thinking about that. We just think we've lost a loved one. But this time, our loved one's body parts are being sold off.
Very, very valuable. And people are not aware. Like, I'm a doula, so I do childbirth as well. Most women do not understand how much their placenta is worth. That's like £40,000. And they're telling you that that's medical waste.
So what about when you give birth then? What about that?
The placenta, yeah? They like to whip that away from you. Quick. It's worth money. Also, Black women who are having hysterectomies, all those kinds of things, the stem cells, they want your uterus. Like, Black people have to understand how valuable your melanin isn't just in your skin, it's in all of your organs, your eyes, your lungs, your heart, your kidneys. These are worth so much money. If you Google Black men are turning up without these things. Yeah. You don't question organ harvesting. Yes. And we need to question when you're. Another thing is when, like, my son being in hospital, they wanted to do things without my permission. If I wasn't there with him and if I wasn't on it, they would have been that they were violating. So when I'm saying we have to educate parents, you know, ask for second opinions. Be assertive and say, no, what are you doing? I need to know, I need to understand, because otherwise they're wanting to give your children certain things that are dangerous. We need to have that conversation as well, please.
Yeah, let's leave it on there, because I think that's definitely another conversation. As you talk about the young Black boys, because I watched them young Black boys play for Chelsea, and they was paying. How much does passion cost?
Don't cost nothing.
Yeah. Zero. I saw them youths playing yesterday at Wembley. They were playing with no passion. I was like, why are them Black kids with no passion, man? And then
do you know why? Because they got 8-year contracts that's paying them about 300 grand a week. That's why they got no passion. There's no incentive for them to put in any work.
That's why I stopped watching Premiership football. Give me divisional football anytime. There you'll find passion.
All right.
Okay.
Take it easy, guys. Yeah. God bless. We'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye. A conversation that needs to be continued.
No, definitely. Just for the people who are watching right now, myself and Denise, because I don't think I'm going to find time to actually do it today, but we are going to do a show called Politics, because this politics is a big subject matter, because it isn't just from a political aspect. The fact of organ harvesting is a conversation. It involves politics. You know what I mean? And we are seeing it from young children in that movie where they are harvesting young babies and all that kind of stuff. It's costing money.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Across South America, Middle Eastern America, and parts of Europe, this is a organization, and it's run by people that we could only describe are not very nice. So our children are looked upon, and organs-wise, as a financial asset.
Yeah.
So why we have to be so much on top of what T said, be on top of it. Yeah, definitely. Look, we're at a break right now. I just want to